Welcome to Marvel-ous Movie Mondays. That was my best Duck impression. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was good.
Thank you. Welcome to Marvel-ous Movie Mondays with Kelsey and Dill. Guess which one's which? Why don't you tell us which one you are?
Dill. Oh, sorry. Kelsey. Sorry.
We screwed it up.
I'm
Okay.
Kelsey. That's Dill.
We'll get it right one of these
Sometimes
days.
I get confused.
It's okay. There's no binaries in 2024. We're welcome to Marvel-ous Movie Mondays with Kelsey and a very exhausted Dill here. The reason I made that joke is because I don't even know who I am today. But we have a little extra help today to help us get through this. We've reached the first theatrical release on our first Avenger Files, so we felt like it needed to have a gravitas. We couldn't just talk about this like we've been talking about every other, TV movie, those really shitty Spider-Man sequels and, the Incredible Hulk TV movies that were really just episodes that were packaged together to release in Europe, all that stuff. We were like, you know what? We need some help. And Kelsey, you came on to Framewreck to talk about Madam Web. So we figured we'd only return the favor and have our very first ever guest on the show proper. We've had guests on Marvel Trivia, but we've never had a guest on our just mainstay show. So Kelsey, why don't you introduce our guest?
Okay, so our guest today for this Howard the Duck review is the man, the myth, the legend, Matt.
Matt, there it is. I'm going to put you up there so we can see your name. Matty the Duck. Hello, sir. How are you?
I am doing great. I'm very excited to be on Marvel-ous Movie Mondays. I think I have all of the Infinity Gems now. Have I been on? No, I haven't been on Recipe for... Well, I was on Small Bites.
You're on Small Bites.
Does that count or not?
I will say, just for the fun of it, let's say it doesn't count, so you have something to work
so
for.
I have one Infinity Gem left to get. But
so yeah, you got the draft day, the picture this, the Framewreck, the Marvel-ous Movie Mondays, and you're waiting on that last one. But great to have you on, Matt. I know when we were talking about possibly doing just a Howard the Duck Framewreck episode, because most people say it's like it's so bad it's a good movie. You posed the idea when Madam Web came out, and we both said that it could be a Framewreck movie. Kelsey and I, you thought, hey, why don't we just converge the two and do one on one show, one on the other? We had already done Madam Web on here, so we figured let's do Madam Web on Framewreck, do Howard the Duck here, even if it isn't Framewreck proper. We're not covering it in the Framewreck lens. It does kind of lend itself to having a little bit of that tinge of discussion. So very good idea from you, Matt, and I'm happy to get this marvelous Framewreck underway. I'm
very, very excited. I'm very, very excited to be here. And Kelsey was on Framewreck. I guess that's the wrong way. And if you haven't seen that episode, go freaking watch it. Did you love Madam Web? So did we. Did you hate Madam Web? So did we. It's such a good episode.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people in our Discord. If you haven't joined the Discord, it's on the Facebook page, the link to the Discord. Or if you want to just comment down below, I can give you the Discord link. Come join the Discord. It's really fun. But a lot of people were like, "Oh, Madam Web was so terrible. I can't bring myself to watch your episode." I'm like, no, but that's the point. We're here to talk about why it's terrible, but also why that might be a great thing. So yeah, check out our Madam Web episode.
A lot of people are talking about how angry Madam Web made them, and this is what I've been telling people. Take that anger, channel it into energy, use that energy to press the play button on our episode because it's awesome.
Hey, even if you don't want to listen to it, you could just play it in the background and get us some views and get us some exposure. That's the one thing I never understood. I'm like, you don't have to watch the video, just play the video. It helps us either way. But we'd love it if you actually watched and listened as well. And it is on podcast, so check that out as well. I think I'm behind on a few podcasts just because this week has been swamped. It's the start of New York Film Festival, so I am very exhausted. I'm sleepwalking through this. That's why we have Matt to help with us as well. But before we get into Howard the Duck, we do have to get to some business, some news. We got a little bit of news this week, aka a trailer. It's always fun when we get a new trailer. We got Thunderbolts * trailer. I'm going to keep calling it that until they get rid of the asterisk, but because I think it's purposeful. There's been theories as to what that asterisk means, but what do y'all think of the Thunderbolts trailer? Kels, what do you think of it?
I think it looks really good. I really want to know what that asterisk means. Personally, it's definitely taking a direction. I guess I'm just kind of confused as to where all these characters stand, because we have Yelena and Bucky, who are clear protagonists moving forward in the MCU, but then
they've had their redemptions already. Yeah, they're not villains anymore. Yeah.
But they're partnering up with John Walker, who seems to have still been in his villain era, even when we left him at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Obviously, like Ghost had her redemption at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm just like kind of confused as to where they're all kind of gonna find common ground, and I guess we're gonna find that out through the lens of, I guess, Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. So.
I have thoughts regarding that. Because if you look at it, they all had their redemption, every one of them. So, but that doesn't mean they don't all do bad things. Like, that's the thing. They still do. They still aren't operating as a hero should within their. In that they said that in the trailer. They were like, we're all contract killers or threatening, officials, stuff like that. And that's kind of where they all land. And I think that like someone's obviously like trying to set them up, and that's where their common ground is going to be, because you get that as like, who said this here? 100% it's Valentina. Like, she's trying to get them together, and she's going to be revealed to be the thing. I don't know that that's true necessarily, but I think that's what's happening. I also think that there was some creative editing where Bucky isn't actually attacking the limo at the end of the trailer, because they never actually show him near the limo. They just show things happening to the limo and Bucky being there, like attacking other vehicles. So I don't think he's actually going to be on the other side of this through the movie. I think they're just trying to make us think that.
This is
go ahead. I was going to comment on the asterisk.
Yeah, this is clearly their take on the Suicide Squad, because first Suicide Squad was a failure, but then they rebooted it with James Gunn. It was really successful. Now that they're losing James Gunn, I feel like they're going to try to like, hone in on what has worked in the past with audiences. And they're like, you know what? The Suicide Squad was really good. A big hit for DC. Let's do our own similar thing. Get these kind of like people who are villains, but not like villains together. They're kind of almost got an edge to them, almost like your anti-heroes. Let's get them together and have a team up movie. The only difference is I think this trailer at least made it come across very dark and serious, whereas I think Suicide Squad, the whole beauty of that, or I should say the Suicide Squad, I keep making that mistake. The Suicide Squad, the beauty of that film is that it is more goofy. It's silly. It has a humor to it. It has like this kind of more comic booky pop feel to it, where that was my one concern watching, because I'm like, I like this idea, but I think if they're going to try to replicate the Suicide Squad, they're definitely taking a darker approach. At least the trailer suggests that. So I'm just hoping it doesn't get too dark and bogged down, because I think the fun of it is you take these characters that are inherently dark and you put them in a circumstance that is inherently lighter, and you make the action still dark, but you can give like the atmosphere and the comedy and the, actual tone of it. You can keep that light, which is what James Gunn did so well with the Suicide Squad. So I think a lot of people are like a little worried though that it's just going to get a little too dark and serious, whereas something like this can lend itself to be a lot of fun, especially because we saw Yelena be like a really great comedic relief despite being this like antagonistic figure in Hawkeye. So I'm still holding out. I always hold judgment for these trailers until I actually see the movies, because the trailers also I get upset about all spoilers, and I feel like the good thing about this is it didn't spoil a lot, which I like. It didn't spoil any like huge reveals that we didn't know was coming. So I give that a thumbs up, but I am reserving a little judgment just because I've been burned before, but I do think it is promising. It looks great. The Green Knight DP did this, just shot this, so you can obviously see like the color grading already looks better than like half the trailers we've seen the last few years. Like it looks like it actually has like a style, which is good. It's just I think a lot of people are going to go in expecting the Suicide Squad, and they're going to get something a lot more grim and dark. So I just want people to be prepared, but it could be a lot of fun and like upbeat, and they're just selling it a different way. So I have to wait till I see it. But Matt, what were you going to say about the asterisk?
Well, I want to comment on what you were just saying real quick.
Yeah.
Which with the darkness, this trailer opened on comedy because the Yelena Alexi thing. Which is fun.
I forgot Alexi's in there. Yeah, we totally,
because Yelena and Alexi are definitely going to be the comic relief. Ghost and Taskmaster are not going to be the funny ones in this. Like, they are going to be dark, and we need them to be dark. Like, that's their thing. I think, and then John Walker and Bucky are going to be like the grounded characters, hopefully, like the kind of middle characters who are all business and can be part of the jokes, but not necessarily comedy relief. And then we got the other two who are going to be the comedic relief. And I think it's going to meld. I will say this about trailers, that first Justice League trailer, I don't mean not Justice League, the first Suicide Squad trailer, and not the Suicide Squad, David Ayer's Suicide Squad, was incredible. That trailer was one of the greatest trailers I've ever seen.
Right, the Bohemian
that
Rhapsody,
movie
right?
did not live up to the trailer. You can't trust these things because the same people don't make these things.
Right.
I will say that I think they it does look like they could go a little dark, and they probably should, because they've got some characters that would be well served for them to go dark with, like Ghost and Taskmaster are both in there, and they and John Walker could go really dark. And then they've got, I think the blend is going to be good. I hope. Okay. But as far as the asterisk, I think that speculating is awesome, and I think we all should. I think that my big thing, and my problem with Marvel speculation in general, is that a lot of people have these ideas of what they are going to be, and then once the thing is revealed, it's either A, they're like, that's what I thought it was going to be. Like the movie is punished for, or the show is punished for you being right. Number two, if it's not what you thought it was going to be, oh, that's so stupid. Why wasn't it? This is Mephisto. Like that's that.
Don't say his name around here.
WandaVision. WandaVision did never promise Mephisto. Yet when they didn't get him, the Marvel universe just like imploded. They were, something was taken from him.
Yeah, it's been 3 years and how many months, and now we finally get the name drop. It's crazy how long
which was awesome. Yeah. But again, I think that was hopefully it's something, but it's mostly it was dropped there for fan service. Maybe it's a thing. That would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Kelsey and I will talk about it next week. But
you guys, we don't need to talk about that right now. But as far as the asterisk, there's another thing where, like, when Comic-Con was happening, I was kind of unplugged for reasons. I don't remember what the exact reason was, so I didn't get a lot of the news and stuff. So when I saw that asterisk, I was super excited. I was like, what does it mean? And so I looked it up, and Feige was like, we'll talk about that after the movie comes out. I was like, yes, I want that. And I don't care what it is. I just love that there's like a secret. Like it's a little secret up in the corner. It would be awesome if the asterisk at the end of the movie's over, and the asterisk at the bottom underneath the title, the asterisk says The Thunderbolts. And it's just a joke about how Suicide Squad and the Suicide Squad, and they're like, we don't need a second movie. That would be awesome. Right. I don't think it's what it's going to be, but that would be funny to me.
Yes.
What was I going to say? I don't remember. Go on. Somebody else talk.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, I'm just very looking forward to. I am looking forward to it. I think the characters are exciting enough. A bit interesting because I know Taskmaster was not received well, but I think this could also be a good redemption for like a character like that, a character like Ghost that is also kind of forgotten about now. But also like a real great kind of continuation of like John Walker, who is a very interesting character. Alexi was a very interesting character. I honestly forgot about the whole Alexi part when I was talking, and even though there is comedy there, it is still like kind of shot in this kind of dark, grim way. Like he kind of gets off the couch and he's like, he's been through some shit, so like there's a kind of that torturedness, but also like you're right, like there is a humor there. So I am very much looking forward to it. It looks like this is Yelena's movie though. Like they're really making her like kind of the front and center of the trailer. So I think that'd be great. I think she is continually the breakout of everything she's in. I can't think of any project she's in where she's not my favorite part. So I think, she's going to be a real force of nature to be reckoned with. So I'm really excited for it. Like this is the first time I've actually watched a trailer and been like, yeah, I'm sold. Like past trailers, I've always been like, but this one I'm like really sold. And there's nothing in the trailer that I'm like, God, you couldn't wait for the movie to tell me that, kind of like the Doc Ock and Spider-Man or the Red Hulk and Captain America, So like, I think that is going to be, a real treat because I don't know anything going in, which is good.
It's because they're not selling these movies to you; they're selling them to the average person, Dylan.
I know. Well, okay. So then I don't have to buy a ticket then because they clearly don't care about me.
Come on, that's not what I meant. Obviously,
no, I know you. No, that is what you meant. No, and that's the thing is like.
No, what I meant was that
about everyone.
Doc Ock being in it. You should know that because they need to tell you about the multiverse. What they didn't need to tell you was the other Spider-Man, and they didn't. That was the important thing that they not tell you. If they didn't reveal anything, then it's just Peter and his friends standing around for the first third of the movie, and you know nothing about anything else that's happening. That's my point. We don't need to talk about that. the people in the Thunderbolts trailer are most of them were the most interesting parts of their respective things, movies and shows, which is really fun, because I think John Walker was probably the most interesting thing about Falcon and Winter Soldier. I don't like Falcon and Winter Soldier very much, so he was the most interesting thing. Ghost was really cool in a movie that I thought was good, but I didn't love, and Yelena and Alexei were the best parts of that movie as Black Widow as well. So I'm very excited about that. I've always been bleh on Bucky, so I'm excited to maybe see something about him that in this that I might enjoy a little more.
Kelsey's heart breaking slowly.
Hey, Kelsey, I love you. I used to be pretty face blind to Sebastian Stan. If I saw him in something, I wouldn't realize that it was the same guy who was in the Captain America movies. And now I've gotten over that a little bit, but I still think there's coolness about Bucky that I really enjoy. He just there's so many things about he is the thing in most of the in these MCU things that his character is the reason I don't like them. Not that I don't like them, but that like bothers me. His whole story in Civil War is what is the downside to Civil War to me. Like Falcon and Winter Soldier, that his like Falcon and Winter Soldier just doesn't work for me at all. So like there's a lot of he doesn't excite me, but I want him to. So that's what I'm waiting for.
That's fair. Yeah, Kels.
Yeah, I mean, I love Bucky. I'm a Bucky stan. I think it's mostly because Captain America: The Winter Soldier is like easily one of my favorite MCU films, and he has a lot to do with that. And I'm a big fan of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Unfortunately for you, Matt. But
I'm happy for you. I want you to like it.
And you know what? And that project like really was the one that really like solidified the character of Bucky for me and made me love Sebastian Stan so much. But anyway, what I was going to say, Dill, is that I do fear that there are more trailers to come and that this is only the first one. So I fear that you may have other things spoiled for you the more trailers get dropped, because that's just how these things go, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is a teaser. And back when, like, in the heyday, teasers were 20 seconds. This is a 2-minute teaser, which is crazy.
Yeah.
This is not even an official trailer. This is a teaser. So, yeah, you're right. We're probably going to get more. But, yeah, I hope the more comes with, like, new characters. Not like, oh, we're also teasing, the return of so-and-so. But I feel like that would have been spoiled by now in casting, at least. Like, they tend to let us know who's in the movie, at least. But except for No Way Home, obviously. And Matt, I was agreeing with you with that. I was like, no, they don't. They make it for more like the general appeal to like bring them in. Whereas like we're gonna go see them anyway. So like, they're not trying to cater the trailers to us to be like, wait, Doc Ock's in this. You got to check it out. I haven't seen a Marvel movie in 10 years. That's a character from my childhood. So like, I definitely get that. So I was agreeing with
and I think my point is more that it's similar to my feelings on how people perceive like speculation and stuff like that. What a lot of people see as spoilers is just the thing they want you to know. Like, it's not a spoiler because they're giving it to you. If someone else had told you, it would be a spoiler. They obviously want you to know this before you go to see the movie.
True.
And possibly to even get you to go see the movie. So
yeah, and honestly, that's not even the worst example of it. Like, I think spoiling that Rocket survives Guardians 3 was the most like upset I've been about it, because the whole like scene where he cocks the gun, he's lying dead on the table, and you're like, well, he's got to do that scene, so he's gonna live. Like that's the one I had the most problems with.
Well, that's that is as old as trailers. I could tell you about movies from the 80s where I was like, oh, I haven't seen that scene yet.
So he must wake up from his coma. Yeah. So I think it's just me and Marvel trailers just don't have a good relationship, which is why I like this one so much, because it feels like it didn't give me anything that I'm like frustrated that I know now. It just gave me like, okay, these are the characters who are going to be in it. This is kind of how they get together. That's it. There's a little intrigue, mystery. It looks great. Looks visually good. So yeah, I'm excited. I think we're all sold for Thunderbolts asterisk, and we'll have to see what that asterisk means.
One more thing. I expected to see General Ross or President Ross or whoever he is now, because Thunderbolts are named after him. And
yeah,
I assumed the only thing that was why they kept the character around instead of writing him out was that he needed to be in Thunderbolts. And
but we also know he's going to be Red Hulk. He turns into Red Hulk in Brave
Right.
New World, which I think comes before it. So I don't know what the timeline is. Maybe Thunderbolts is before that. So I'm wondering if it's like we name it in honor of him because he's gonna in
Gotcha.
Brave New World, or it's he ends up being saved in Brave New World somehow, or he is gonna be revealed in a later trailer as Kelsey hinted, and he will be in the movie. Who knows? Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe that's who they are fighting in this movie. That's who they're trying to bring down. I will say this to your point about them showing Red Hulk. As a longtime comic fan, that small moment was everything to me. So you needed, like, the fact that they didn't spoil anything by that. I mean, they were going to have to show you a little bit of that. So it was amazing. Yeah,
it's the overall battle of marketing. It's like, what do you show that doesn't give away too much, but also gets people excited to see it? Because you can't just market something off the first 20 minutes. I mean, some have, which is impressive. But we do need to move on. Really quickly, best thing we watched this week. What was everyone's best thing we watched this week? Kelsey, what was the best thing you watched this week?
Well, I watched it technically 2 weeks ago, so I'm cheating. But it was 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Nice first watch for you.
Yeah, it was one I've been trying to get around to for the longest time, and I just finally bit the bullet on it, and it was a great viewing experience. I really liked it a lot.
Nice. Might come up
4 stars on Letterboxd.
Wow, it might come up sometime next month. We're doing a draft day around one of these
Who
people.
knows?
Who knows? Maybe it'll come up in conversation then. Not like we pre-recorded it or anything.
Weird how that's going to be in the future, and you will have seen it more recently in that episode than you do now, which is happening before that. It's weird. Time is weird.
Matt, I believe we had the same best thing we watched this week, right? But I don't want to tip our hands too much. What was the best thing you watched this week?
Oh God, I feel the pressure now. Oh yeah, obviously yes. Yeah. It was I was going to go with something else, but you're absolutely right.
Well, I can champion the other thing if you want real quick.
Well, I want to say that the thing that Dylan says is going to be my best thing I watched this week as well. But I do want to mention that I've been trying to catch up for Picture This last Picture This. I hadn't watched anything because I've been watching a lot of spooky season stuff. And so I've been watching through the Picture This stuff, and I watched Anti-Mame from 1958 for the first time. And Jesus Christ, that movie was made for me. It was so funny. It was just like this undiscovered thing that had always been there, and I'd always avoided it because I had this weird thing about the name where it reminded me of a racist stereotype, but it has nothing to do with that. So when I watched it, I was like, God, this was made for me. It was so hilarious. I feel like based on everyone else's Letterboxd reviews, they did not like it as much as I did. But I really like that. But the real best thing I saw this week was what Dylan is about to talk.
Yeah, the Substance, it's in theaters. It is the best thing you will probably watch all year. Not necessarily. I mean, like, I'm seeing Anora later today as we speak, so like that could end up being it. But like, the Substance is one of the most innovative, inventive, brilliant horror movies. What it has to say about body image, specifically with women in Hollywood, it's just fantastic. Kelsey, if you haven't seen The Substance, you need to go see it. Have you heard of this?
Yes, I was trying to watch it. I was like, I'm going to the movies. I'm seeing something else next week, but I was trying to book a show viewing of The Substance, and there's like no viewings.
I think they pulled it already. I mean, some theaters still has it, but like,
didn't it just come out?
That's the modern. See, this is my frustration. I mean, I could go on and on. I know we only have an hour, so I don't want to like go crazy about it. But like, I just. I really, really, really wish theaters gave films more of a chance. It is distributed by Mubi, which is a streamer. So like, there's that idea that maybe like they only had an agreement to put it out for a week or two. But I do think if you look at some of the bigger theaters, they might still have some screenings here and there, but they're pulling it from a lot of theaters. Also because it is a very like divisive, horror film that's, got a lot of graphic nudity in it. So you can't like show it in a bunch of theaters because, you need the theaters open for the kids and whatnot. But I really recommend that one, Kelsey, if you can try to find a way to see it. It is, I think you're going to really like it. But Matt,
I will say, and this comes from working in a video store for so long, that sometimes even if you really love a movie, you do have to caveat it a little bit. But it is weird as fuck.
It's very weird.
And you should just know that. But it is worth it because it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, that's all we'll leave it at because I don't want to give away too many details. I did do a review on it on the channel, so if anyone wants to check that out, just hear my more in-depth thoughts. I don't spoil much. I spoil like one graphic horror moment that involves a sewing needle, but that's about it. That's all I spoil. But yeah, just saying that, it's like, that's that whole movie, but then you think that's as far as it goes, that it goes like 10 notches harder. And
good.
So.
And it's a horror comedy, so it's very funny while also being horrifying.
It's almost satirical in a way. Yeah, the way it kind of like talks about Hollywood and men in Hollywood. Like Dennis Quaid plays a guy named Harvey, who's her boss, who tells her she's too ugly to be in movies, even though it's Demi Moore who's 50 and beautiful still. So yeah, it's one of those movies. But I think the message is great. It's in your face, but horror film should be. So yeah, I highly recommend it. I think that's like a Kelsey movie got written all over it. I think you'll hate some of the horror in it. I think you'll be like ickied out. You'll get the ick, but you'll be like, wow, like especially you loved Blink Twice. I feel like this would be a great like double feature with that. So
yeah. Also, I'm sorry, I lied. I did watch something more recently this week, and it was His Three Daughters.
I saw that on Letterboxd. I was like, I bet that's what she brings up, and you didn't. But yeah, like I saw you had logged that. What do you think of His Three Daughters, Kels?
Oh, it was so great. It was so great. It reminded me so much of a play. And it actually reminded me specifically of a play that Rachel McAdams just did on Broadway called Mary Jane, because it's about a mother with a sick kid. And the entire time the kid is just kind of like, you never see the kid. The kid is like off in his room, off stage. And so it's just her interacting with like his doctor and a different mom and just like these characters every now and again. And it's just like, because I was like, oh, we're probably like never... I don't know what I can say about this movie. That's not like a spoiler.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
so
the sick person in the film is seen off screen for like most of the film. There's one scene where you do see the body, but it is very much like about the people who are going through the process of like someone with hospice. Basically, is like the general way we can say it. It is dark. It is heavy. I was actually surprised it wasn't based on a play when I saw it. I was like, wait, this isn't a play. This is an original script. To where I almost kind of wish it was a play because I feel like just being in the theater would have like really helped. But the performance, it's an acting showcase first and foremost, and I think Natasha Lyonne should be in consideration for some Oscar buzz. All three are being campaigned and supporting because there's no real lead of that movie. They all kind of support one another. So I like how they're taking that approach. So yeah, we'll see what happens come Oscar time with Natasha Lyonne, but also Marvel Elizabeth Olsen and Carrie Coon both in this as well. So two Marvel representatives there. So very exciting. Should we transition to the most exciting topic of the day, which is the reason you all are here? Listen, it's always fun to do business when a new trailer's out. We love to talk about it, especially with a third party. Like that's just so cool to just like talk about all different opinions on trailers in general. So I'm glad we had the lengthy discussion about it. But we do have to get to the girth of the conversation here, which is Mr. Howie the Duck, Mr. Howard T. Duck, if you will. Wow. Matt, you had seen this before, right? This is a movie of your childhood.
Oh, okay. So if I can start off real quick, just with a question for you guys. What was the first Marvel movie you guys ever saw?
Spider-Man 2002.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Kelsey's a late bloomer.
But I caught up.
Well, you're both late bloomers to me because my first Marvel movie was Howard the Duck.
You see it in theaters?
No, because I was 2. And it was, so I
because this is the first theatrically released, aside from like the Captain America serials of the 40s, this is the first theatrically released Marvel film, which is really cool. Like we're covering the first theatrical release Marvel film. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So and I don't know exactly when I watched it. I can't say it's probably not my first superhero movie because I'm pretty sure I saw Superman the moving picture the before that I had seen this. But I definitely saw it too young for what I had seen when I rewatched it just now, and I was like, "Oh Jesus!" But it was the '80s. The '80s were weird.
It was a PG movie. Everyone, it is rated PG, which was the first shock to me because in the first minute we see duck tits, and I was like, "Whoa!" Like, what is going on? Not that there's any problem, like people should be free to express themselves, ducks as well, but like I was just jarred by because I just saw the PG rating. I was like, oh, it's gonna be a fun kids movie, and I was like, oh my god, like this guy's like
that's how the
a playboy misogynist duck who fucks and has tits, and it's crazy.
That was the glory of the '80s. Is that was a fun kids movie. It's I saw it a lot when I was. I watched it I've seen it many times.
So this is like
I haven't watched it in a long time. So this was like the first time I've rewatched it probably since I've been an adult. Maybe I've watched it like once in the last 20 years. But I think that I probably haven't seen it in at least 20 years. I think it's probably how long it's been. So rewatching it now, I was kind of seeing it with fresh eyes, but there was so much that like just instantly hit me again. I was like, oh, I remember all of this, and oh, I remember that this is a thing. So it was an interesting experience.
Kelsey, was this your first time watching this?
This was my first time watching this, and it started off like so kind of like campy and crazy that I was like, okay, I think I might be like really into this. And then it really the pacing really slows down, and things just like certain scenes just go on for too long. And you kind of realize at a certain point that the actual character of Howard the Duck wasn't written to be very cool or very funny, or like really like he's just kind of like an asshole, but like not in a fun way. And he's a duck. So at a certain point, like especially during the last half of this movie, like it really started to lose my attention. But let's start from the beginning. So Howard the Duck, released 1986, directed by Willard Huyck. That's how I'm deciding to say that name. And just my short.
I've always pronounced that Hayuk, which is wrong, but it does make me think of Goofy. So
Hayuk.
It almost looks like Quack. It looks, if you put the Hayuk and Quack next to each other, they look similar. I thought it at first it said Quack because of a duck, but then I realized they would not be making that joke because it's his name. I was in a weird. I watched this morning after being out at the film fest till like 4 a.m. So like I was a little loony brain watching this, but it was fun.
I'm sure it probably felt like a fever dream to you, Dill. After getting blasted out of his home planet of Duck World, Howard the Duck must find a way to escape Earth with the help of his new friend, Beverly. Yeah,
played by the great Leah Thompson, who I texted you both this. I was like, it's very funny. Her agent gets her this job, Back to the Future. It's a big breakout. You know, you're going to have to fuck your brother, or like try to fuck your son. You know, because she plays his mom. And now it's like, she's like, all right, do you have a normal movie for me now? He's like, yeah, you just have to like, fuck this duck. You know, like it's so funny. Like, she always gets put in the worst, like most uncompromising situations, but she's a trooper. She's great.
So the first thing I noticed was it said a George Lucas film, and George Lucas sounds very familiar. Is that the guy who does Star Wars?
It is, yes. Kelsey. Good job. Your movie trivia is just like
I'm a genius. I've never even seen a Star Wars.
Yep, okay. This is not quite at that level.
Well, see, okay, so growing up, there were 7 Lucasfilm movies, in my opinion. I didn't realize. I've realized now that he's made a lot. That Lucasfilm has made a lot more. Yeah, but there were 7. There's production company. There were 7 Lucasfilm movies, 3 Star Wars movies, 3 Indiana Jones movies, and Howard the Duck. And so like that's always like the fact that this was like
don't diss Willow. I'm kidding.
Well, Willow is, but I didn't realize that was Lucasfilm back then. So growing up, that was just kind of the how I saw it was like this was like the other Lucasfilm thing.
Yeah. No, growing up, I only thought Lucasfilm was Star Wars. I thought that was it because like after like his first few movies in like the 70s, he didn't make anything but Star Wars movies directorially. So I was just like, oh, right. Lucasfilm Star Wars, that's it. Because like Skywalker Ranch, you know, I didn't realize he even had like Indiana Jones in his back pocket. Like we underrate how much of a producer presence he was in like the 80s and 90s for sure. You know, I think you know nowadays because he's just kind of chilled and relaxed and retired. You know, we don't take that into much consideration, but yeah, he had the goods,
Crazy. And then so the first, I mean, I have many notes, but I guess the note overall in general that kind of is like the headliner for all of the rest of my notes moving forward is that this is an incredibly horny movie.
Very.
Yes.
Because the first thing the first thing we hear is on his answering machine. So we're in Duck World with Howard the Duck, and on his answering machine, a fellow lady duck is calling him saying, "Oh, I was thinking of you last night. I was running my hands through your feathers, and maybe you should just come over later." And I'm like, okay. So Howard the Duck gets freaky, get after it. And then he pulls out a magazine called Play Duck. And then once he gets lasered, he gets pulled through, apartment building, apartment after apartment after apartment. And we shoot through a lady duck's bathroom where she's taking a bath, sipping on her martini. And, she's got her bosoms out. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
The duck tits? Nah, I only said it like 5 times.
Right. Of course.
I've never seen bosoms, so I don't know.
And honestly, it just processed in my head. And so now I guess I really want to talk about the look of Howard the Duck. It seems that
the character
45, of the character.
Okay.
Because it's kind of hard to explain because there seem to be there's like 45 different names listed under like playing Howard the Duck. I'm sure someone's doing his voice, someone's in a suit, someone's doing puppetry. Please,
if I may, just for a moment, because I did want to talk about that. But
yes,
did you guys notice who the voice was?
It sounds like Steve Buscemi.
It's Chip Zane from Zine, however you say his name, from Into the Woods. Played the baker on Into the Woods.
That's who I knew the name because I'd recognize the name Chip Zine, and I'm like, I don't know how I know this name because the voice. You're right. It sounds almost like Steve Buscemi, but I'm not like this is not an iconic voice where I'm like, did he play another voice role? I'm sure I've seen other things of his, but that's a fun fact. The original baker in Into the Woods. Nice.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Go on.
And so I'm just saying, like, it's kind of amazing how he's not just like a puppet, like his like eyes are moving. That was the most fascinating part to me, is that the eyes were able to move and blink and like look around.
That's the thing that we lose today. I think I'm not an anti CGI person, and I think because of when I came up, even bad CGI is not a big deal to me because I've been through it all. I've been through the gamut of CGI. So bad CGI isn't even a problem for me. However, I love a good practical effect. And Howard the Duck, the character, is basically impeccable. Pun not intended, impeccable. It's basically impeccable throughout this movie. Like, it feels like not a real duck, but a real duck character. Right. At no point do I go, okay, so that's how this is happening, or oh, I can see where the problems are with the mouth moving or the eyes moving or whatever. None of it feels artificial. It all feels real, and that was actually really incredible watching it now. Because I grew up with this, so it was not a weird thing to me growing up. But watching it 20, 30 years later, I go, oh wait, I know how things work now. That's impressive.
Yeah, I do imagine it's more on the puppetry side than someone in a suit. I think I haven't done a lot of research in it, but I assume it's puppetry. I mean, we got to think about like what year did this come out again? 84?
86.
Okay, so this is now 4 years removed from another movie that is about a very animatronic central character from another planet who ends up on Earth, who at the end has to take off in a flying vehicle to escape the police in a bicycle. It's very E.T. And I think this was like their idea of like trying to like replicate the magic of that, but obviously with a lower budget and with a visionary who's not quite Steven Spielberg. But it is funny that George Lucas did this because Steven Spielberg like literally uses Star Wars characters in E.T. like when Elliot's playing with the toys. So I have to believe George Lucas put a little bit of his buddy Stevens influence of E.T. in this, at least in terms of the animatronic and the way they would like kind of make this like non-living character feel believable in the space. And also I think the finale is straight out of E.T. Even the score gets borderline close. I really do think it's a little on the nose or on the beak at times when it comes to the comparisons to E.T. But I do think, I think they were really trying to experiment. Like this was the heyday for like practical effects and like animatronics and all that. It wasn't until the late 90s where we get like the kind of influx of CG with like Scorpion King and the prequels and all that stuff going into the 2000s. So I really do like the Star Wars prequels, I should say. But I really do like the practicality of Howard. It's even funnier, knowing that like an actor was like actually having to like be romancing a duck, like a physical presence. Like nowadays it's like, all right, just look at this tennis ball. It's going to be CG, but like, whatever. But no, she had to like actually like caress a puppet. I just think that's funny. And
the only reason why I assume that at least some of it was you know, a guy in a suit is because they do list a little person as, you know, being one of the many people who played Howard the Duck.
Well, that's the thing about it, is that like you go from a close-up shot and stuff like that, and that's all like perfect. But then you zoom out to him walking beside Leah Thompson, and it looks like the same. It looks the same. It looks like the same character, and that's what's so impressive. But to do that, it would have to be a person. Like the animatronics were not up to that. I don't think we could. I mean, we could probably do that today, but
even in post, like even if it was like a puppet, they would have to delete all the strings and stuff, and I just don't think they had the budget for that. Yeah, you're right.
And he moves so smoothly. That's part of what's so impressive, is that close up, when it's probably just an animatronic or a puppet or whatever, and zoomed out, they both look the same.
That's a good point. Yeah.
His name is Ed Gale on IMDb.
Good job, Ed Gale. Great performance.
Yeah. So let's talk about Leah Thompson and his kind of friend that he meets on Earth. So we meet her. She's like this rock star. Also, part of the reason why I had a problem with this movie is that I feel like most of the time the only antagonist and the only conflict of the movie is like obviously Howard's trying to get home, but also at the same time that there was really no direct opposing force to Howard until like the last like 30 minutes, 45 minutes.
The monster shows up at the 100-minute mark. I timed it.
Yeah. And so the only real like conflict he's kind of dealing with is all of the misogynistic assholes that just keep harassing Leah Thompson's character. And they really and I guess they do kind of showcase him in a way where he's like kind of able to take them on, because as we know, he is a master of quack fu.
Yes, correct.
But yeah, and I think one of the notes that I made was Leah Thompson. I think it was during the scene where she's like romancing him in the bedroom. I'm like, what? Who has something on you in Hollywood? Like, who blackmailed you into this?
That's that. Yeah. Okay. So as far as the antagonist for the first three-fourths of this movie, it's prejudice. Like it's like inequality, because yes, you got him facing off against like the misogynist people, but his chief issue for most of the movie is people look at him going, "It's a duck. It's unnatural. Let's experiment on it, or let's do whatever, or we have to tie him down and we're going to serve him in this restaurant." Like that's kind of the thing, is like people treating someone else as though less than them, and I think that's kind of the big thing. But yeah, a lot of it is the misogynistic assholes who are throughout this movie. Leah Thompson, it's weird, and yes, somebody must have something on it. There's a sincerity in her performance with this duck that I actually really, really dig. Yes, it's weird. It was also kind of sweet throughout the movie. I don't just mean that like sex moment, or like I'm not gonna have sex with you moment. I'm just joking around that moment. I'm not just talking about that, although that did feel sincere as well. There's a sincerity throughout where you really feel like she cares for Howard. And this comes from a very personal place. As a person who has never felt valued, especially in the looks department, or at least I've always been like much bigger than everyone else, and weird and saying weird things all the time, and I've never been like a normal person. So to have so that's why I like Beauty and the Beast is like my favorite animated thing. Like there's a thing about someone who embraces someone else without without irony. Like there's a sincerity that I really, really love. And that's one thing about her, is that like the fact that she embraced this character with complete sincerity, and she didn't have to really compromise to get to that point with her character, really spoke to me in a way that I didn't realize it was going to. So yeah, it's weird, but it also I also really enjoyed that.
Yeah. That's a good point. Like a whole like love who you love type narrative. It's very interesting, because it's like the biggest antagonist, Kelsey said, was like misogyny, but then I'm also like, but Howard's also a little bit in that department of like, he'll say some things where I'm like, you're objectifying women, and like, hey, nuts, like, but the thing that I really like that Matt brought up is like the whole antagonistic force of that like kind of prejudice and I guess racism that comes at like, you know, how could you be with this animal, which is a little weird if you think about it because like bestiality, but also like I think they do a good enough job making it known like this is a duck humanoid kind of creature from another planet, not like she didn't take like a duck out of a pond like a sweet little duckling and pluck it like that'd be crazy and awful, you know, like it's clearly
this creature has its own
he's a duck but he's not a duck, you know.
He can consent.
It's like Brian. Yeah. It's like Brian on Family Guy. Brian on Family Guy gets laid more than any other character on that show, but it's like it's never like, oh, look at this sweet puppy. I'm gonna like no, like it's like no, he's this dog who just it's almost like a human who happens to look like a dog. You know, it's like that's the same thing. Like this is a little man who just happens to be this like duck creature thing. But at the same time, it is a little weird. But like yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like that is kind of the message it's trying to send. But I do think Howard himself is a little bit of a little rapscallion, if you will. Like he's got some he's got a little dirty mind, which makes it a little harder for the whole misogyny thing, because it's like, you know, you're fighting off misogynists, but are you any better? But he is a cute little guy, you know, and I think that's where it's like that's true. Leah Thompson's able to sell it is because he's a cute little guy. You just want to like you know,
his personality is kind of is based on like the 1930s noir type characters, which is where that comes from when he does like the toots and the stuff like that, especially in the 80s. That was a different brand of thing. Like you could say that as long as you were being like respectful.
Well, this was like the heyday of Hugh Hefner as well. Like the whole idea, like the Playboy who's like got all the women. He's a womanizer, and it's like you know, quack. You know,
well. You know, okay, so I did do some research about what Howard the Duck is like in the comics. So we can talk about the much cooler version of Howard the Duck that I don't think gets portrayed in this movie very well. So Howard is from Duck World, as we know, and he actually crash lands into the Florida Everglades when he first arrives on Earth. And that's where this place is, that's called the Nexus of All Realities. And by trying to escape the first time, he actually teams up with a slew of other people, but one of them being Man-Thing, who we met in Werewolf by Night, aka Ted. And then in trying to get home, he actually falls back to Earth, and that's when he ends up in Cleveland, Ohio, and meets Beverly. And there he worked as a private detective. And I think that's kind of the look that we kind of see him in, you know, when we meet him in Guardians. So I don't know. I was anticipating this movie to be very different. I thought this duck was just going to be a lot cooler. But it was very much an origin story, I guess. So maybe if there was a Howard the Duck 2, we'd see him maybe take on this private detectiveness.
Well, that's why his personality is the 1930s noir detective thing.
Right.
Because that's what they're going for. It's just they were establishing this origin. If they had gone, they'd gone to a second one, I think the characterization they had gone with would have made a little bit more sense.
Yeah. And in the comics, he helps fight the Skrulls in Secret Wars, and he is eventually kidnapped by the Collector, which is where we meet him as in the MCU. And so kind of back to this relationship that he has with Leah Thompson, I just want to be clear. I don't think that she does a bad job in this film. Like, she doesn't give a bad performance. She's absolutely not phoning it in at all. But they do, they do, for me, get progressively stupider, the two of them. And it's mostly the writing's fault. Like, the whole, so once the antagonist comes into the film, because they try to use the laser again to take Howard home, but they actually open up another portal, and now this demon comes to Earth and possesses the doctor scientist dude played by Jeffrey Jones, and this is kind of the villain they now have to battle for the last fourth of the film. And the entire time, Howard and Beverly are just looking at each other like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Like, can't you just act normal in this diner, dude? What's wrong with you? And I'm like, he's clearly not okay. Like, he's possessed. Like, you need to do something. And they're just like, beats us. We don't know what could be wrong with this guy, but he's acting weird. Like, it's so bizarre. And it just makes these scenes like drag on so much longer than they actually should. Like, I think that this movie would have worked a lot better if it was just an hour 30 instead of pushing like the 2 hour mark that it does.
Yeah.
And because what was starting to get irritating, specifically about Leah Thompson's character, was that I feel like the last fourth of this movie, she's just yelling at everyone to help Howard. She's like, come on, get up out of the diner booth. Like, you got to help him. And they're all like getting him ready to cook him and to like make him into soup or something. And I'm like, this scene is going on forever, girl. I'm like, get your shit together. This guy is clearly a demon. Like, we need to try. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Like, bitch, try a new tactic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you standing there yelling at him isn't going to work. And that happens like at a different point in the film as well. And I literally wrote down, I was like, Howard and Beverly got progressively stupider.
They did.
Yeah. It was. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just, I agree. Like, some of those scenes are definitely where it goes a little bit long. I did like that scene. I thought there was some funny stuff in it. But yes, you kind of have to, and that's where the comedy logic kind of takes over, and you have to kind of look at it more in the comedy than in terms of like real world logic. But and it doesn't excuse it. Like, there is a lot of that where it's just like, okay, why isn't she helping at all? I think that them constantly not getting that he's a demon is kind of funny, but it also it happens too many times where it's like, okay, we've outdone this joke.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Jones, and it's come up so much recently, probably because of Beetlejuice. This dude, one of the greatest villains of the 80s, turns out to be a real-life villain in real life. It sucks. He gives another really great villain performance in this with very bad ADR, still better than Madam Web.
So much better. Better.
I was gonna make that joke. I was like, oh yeah, Jeffrey Jones is this like demon that like everyone totally doesn't realize is like this menacing brewing monster until it's too late. And then I was like, and he's also doing that in this movie. But you know,
yes, very, very true. Very true. But you know, it's a shame. It's a shame that, you know, he had to be like everything that children had to go through for his entertainment or whatever. That's the real shame. The secondary shame is that this really great villain just sucks in real life, and that sucks so bad.
But he's a villain, so it's easy to root against him, you know?
It's easier to root against him, but he's just, especially in the 80s and early 90s, just so much really great villain stuff from him. And in things that I really like. So it just, there's been a constant reminder recently, and probably just because of Beetlejuice coming out. Yeah.
I do have a question. Oh, sorry, Matt. You go first, because I think I'm gonna segue to a different point. So you go first, Matt.
Oh, okay. No, but so all of that, so everything after that, especially like when the monster shows up and all that goes on way too long. And at this point, and I think the big problem is that at this point it's been a comedy, and suddenly it's like this action set piece, which is fine, but that's not what's been entertaining us so far. Yeah. And that just kind of goes on for way too long after that. So that is where I'm with you on that. Like,
that's actually a perfect segue to what I was going to just say is that, okay, Kelsey was rattling off all this like origin about Howard the Duck, and like Matt even talked about how it becomes an action movie because this is a Marvel movie at the end of the day. So my question is, what are his powers? Like, what is his superhero? Like, you have super strength, you have super speed, you have like, what is his thing? Is it just that he's a
quack
duck?
Quack foo.
But like,
we only see it like once.
Right, but that's the thing. It's like, it feels like every superhero has a thing. They either have a weapon, a suit, or a physical power. Like Spider-Man can shoot webs. It's very simple. Like, that was the whole thing. Is I was waiting. I was like, what is this? Like, if you didn't tell me this was a Marvel movie, I wouldn't know. Like, it doesn't feel like a superhero movie. And then they take that pivot to try to like convince us at the end. But even then, it feels more like they're riffing off E.T. than they are trying to do like their own superhero thing. You know, like, because he's like trying to get away in the little like glider that's like not really flying too high. It's like on the top of the road that takes like 40 minutes to get off. Not really, but like, you know, and I think the magic of E.T. is that the stakes building up to that and the characters, it feels like such a great payoff. And the score is doing so much work that like the score in and of itself is telling the story. Whereas here, you don't have that benefit of John Williams doing the score, so it just kind of feels redundant. But yeah, I was wondering the whole time, like, what is his thing? Is he just a detective? That's what Kelsey brought up. And then I'm like, I guess quack foo. But like Kelsey said, we don't see a lot of it. So I'm just like, he's just this guy. He's just this alien. Like, this is not even we've complained so much about these Marvel First Avenger files that we're not seeing enough superhero stuff. And it's like you get 1 or 2 scenes of Spider-Man crawling the wall, but like now I'm like, that's actually doing more than this is. Whereas like I feel like this is more just a character piece about a Marvel character than it is a Marvel superhero film. But again, I don't even know if he's considered a superhero or if he's just a character in the Marvel universe, you know?
I think it comes back to where a sequel would have been more in line with it because the detective thing, like Batman's just a detective. He just happens to wear a bat suit like that.
True.
There's other detective superheroes. The Question, Green Arrow's even a detective rather that happens to shoot arrows. Like there's a lot of really great detective heroes in there. I think that's probably what, if they would have made this feel more like a neo-noir type thing, which Dick Tracy comes out shortly after this, and it's in a very similar style, but it is more of the noir thing. Yeah, I think that if they had gone more in that direction, it probably would have worked a little bit better, but they chose to go more in the comedy direction just because of how ridiculous this was. I think that was they kind of hedged the bet on the comedy of it. I think a sequel probably would have leaned more into the noir stuff, but probably would have felt more like that. But yeah, he's not a superhero like the MCU does superheroes. But I think there is. I mean, I think there is something there that could be done, but we're not going to see a huge cosmic level movie or show with him. It's going to be more of a street level.
That's fair.
And I think that's part of my complaint is that they didn't pick a clear direction to go with Howard. Like they didn't make him the cool, like they kind of half-assed a cool, like noir private detective guy, but they didn't they didn't commit fully to that. They didn't make him like, you know, a very blatant, like scumbag that needs to learn the lesson at the end to like respect women. Or if they're going to make him just a guy, like make him this like meek little duck that like, you know, has to like muster up the courage at the end to like win the girl at the end. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like he kind of just exists in like a very gray area. So I literally was like, why do I care about this guy if I don't like, if I'm not rooting for him?
Yeah, and like I think the closest parallel you can get is like Rocket, where it's like he doesn't have like superpowers, but he does at least like have a gun. Like at least give him. Like, and I'm not advocating for guns, but like I do think like give him a weapon or something to be like this is his thing. Like even the Batman thing that Matt brought up with the detective, like he has a cape, he has weapons, he has things that make him like more than just your average guy, you know, and obviously he's a duck, so he is more than just the average guy here. But you know, I want that extra layer beyond just like he can beat people up with kung fu, quack fu. Sorry,
his hands are his weapons, his feathers are his weapons. He knows quack fu. Come on,
right.
He doesn't need a weapon. He is the weapon. I'm just kidding.
His body is a weapon.
At least give him a little hat or something, like I don't know, like an Indiana Jones.
A hat would be good. Yeah.
Like honestly, they could just make him Indiana Jones. Give him a whip and a hat, and there you go. Like
I don't know if you saw at the beginning, but when his apartment starts shaking, there's a Breeders of the Lost stone or whatever on the wall, and it's a duck version of Indiana
Honestly,
Jones.
that first scene, I know we're going all the way back, but like that production design is like really, really good. Like you could tell like the production design team was like, okay, how many cool references can we pack? And that's what I love about like that whole
that's where all the budget went.
First scene. Like really. But I like that. And it's, you know, George Lucas has the ownership, so it's like you could do as much of that as you want. So yeah, I thought that was cool.
Another and this is a Steven Spielberg connection, simply probably in my mind. I mean, it is really this is real, but at the end of the credits, it says "Voice of the Universe" or "Voice of the Universe," something like that. "Voice of the Universe," "Voice of the Cosmos." "Voice of the Cosmos" is Richard Kiley, which I only know that name from one place, and that's Jurassic Park. When John Hammond said, "The voice you're hearing is Richard Kiley, we spared no expense."
Oh, cool.
So it felt like the same thing where it was like the voice of the cosmos is Richard Kiley. We spared no expense.
That's very fun. That's very cool. Very cool connection there. That's like why we have Matt on, because it's like that's the only you're the only person who probably picked that up, which I love.
Yeah, I don't even know who that is.
Yeah,
I only know it because of now two things.
Okay.
Kelsey, where do we go next? Do you have another? I guess we're kind of at the end. We kind of skipped over the middle. Like they try to cook him, they try to fry him. It's a very
they try to cook him.
Little Mermaid Sebastian Le Poisson moment.
They
don't sing.
Also...
They should sing. This should be a musical.
movie...
That would be so much better.
She sings multiple times.
She does, yes.
And he does get a whole theme song at the end, so that was fun. I did skip over this whole other scene where he randomly like gets a job like working at the raunchiest, most disgusting like spa motel I've ever seen in my life, where all these people are just going at it around him, and his job is to like clean up the secretion and the forgotten underwear and undergarments and stuff like that, which I was like, why even include the scene? Because his main mission, like he just parted from Beverly because they both got into a screaming match about how badly he needs to get home and how badly he needs to be taken seriously and have people like who will be like, you know, also like treating how badly he needs to go home as serious as he is. And the first thing he does is like go on a little side quest and like gets a job. Like, why do you need a job, Howard the Duck? You need to like raise funds to go home. It was just such a weird way to include like all these like raunchy bits that I was like, this movie didn't need to be any hornier. Like, we didn't need this scene. I'm okay.
Yet there will be people who say it's not horny enough, and that's the world we live in.
And those people are sick.
Those scenes would have made more sense, and this is what I was expecting, and we didn't really get it. Those scenes would have made more sense if he, after trying other jobs and stuff like that, he found his calling, which was as a detective. But they didn't really get that, which we did get a little. We got that he found his calling as their manager or whatever. But that wasn't really the payoff we needed. I think if we had like the payoff that had been he opens his own detective agency or whatever, like that would have been a better payoff for that. But I don't know why those are.
But now his final job is what, like her band manager? Like there's like this is for our manager, and he's in the back like, yeah. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah, they really watered down his character, and for what? Like you couldn't work off what was written in the comic books for you.
Right.
I will say my favorite character in this was Tim Robbins as Phil Lumbert. This like bumbling like science guy that's just like so excited to meet like an alien from outer space. Like I thought like that was very, very cute. And he does this when he's first trying to communicate with Howard. He tries a Donald Duck impression, and I'm like, okay, that was funny. Like that got me really fun.
It also plays into the whole racism thing of like, you know, when people like slow down their language to talk to an Asian person, they're like, I speak fluent English, bro. Like, what are you doing? And it's like embarrassing. You know, it feels like that, you know, like where he's like trying to put on a duck voice for this duck. And he's like, bro, I speak English fluently.
Yeah.
Stop. Which, that's a funny bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like all of the actors in this, like really like there was no one who I think like phoned it in or like did a bad job at all. I just like fault the writers like so hard for like not really knowing where to take the character of Howard the Duck and like not knowing what to fucking cut, because this whole back end of this movie drags forever and ever.
Well, I think this brings up a good point, and that's why we wanted to have Matt, you know, do this crossover. It's the Framewreck of it all, and like this isn't an episode of Framewreck, but we got to talk about like what is intentional versus what is unintentional, and is the stuff that humors us the intent or the kind of unknown, you know, like they didn't know they were making it funny, like that whole opening bit with like the boobs and all. Like, is that intentionally the like the writers and directors being like, this would be fucking hilarious, or are they just like, like we're creating the world, and it's like, no, this is ridiculous. Like I really wonder where the lines are in that sense. Matt, do you have any?
I do have thoughts on this. I actually think the entertaining parts are the intentional parts. Are intentional. I think where they try to get serious, because I think they're trying to be really funny throughout all this stuff. The beginning, like Kelsey said, it's really campy and fun at first, and it continues to be campy and fun through most of it, even in the parts that don't work quite as well. It still engages me, at least, because I love camp. So like all that really engages me. Where it falls apart is when they try to get serious, and when they try to do this action set piece at the end, doesn't work quite as well as for me as the rest of it. So I think this doesn't really fall under Framewreck for me, similar to how Super Mario Brothers didn't fall under Framewreck for us, is that it feels like that they're going for this over the top kind of wild thing. It's just in this case, they did not stick a landing at all, and that's what makes this movie. That's where this movie's downfall is for me. Is where they choose to draw it out versus playing to their strengths.
Yeah. So the silliness is the intent. So it's not like, you know, it's not one of those, oh, we didn't know we were making something bad. Like they knew they were intentionally making something camp, and then when they tried to make something good, it ended up being something bad, but not entertainingly bad. So yeah, I agree. I so watching this in the Framewreck lens, and I'm like, this doesn't quite hit those heights. I think because they knew what they were doing in those first few scenes, and then when they, you know, trail off, it's almost like they were just trying to make something good. It just fell flat, rather than like it's this beautiful disaster because they tried so hard and it ended up being such a misfire, you know. Kelsey, what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think this is kind of like what Matt and I are saying, like where do you think there's intent there to make it campy?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that it doesn't fall under the Framewreck category for me is because I'm not gravitating to watch this one ever again. Like I don't really intend to. Like it's not, if the entire movie was the tone and the humor and the campiness of the beginning, and it was, like I said, a tight hour and a half, this would be like an incredible bad movie to watch and over again. But because the ending for me drags so much and it just loses my attention, I don't care. I lost like all interest. I'm just like, why would I put myself through this again?
That's fair. Yeah, and I just think it's so interesting too, because like this is the first theatrically released Marvel movie, and it begs the question. I don't know if it has to do with like TV rights with like Hulk and Spider-Man and stuff, but like why this? Like and I understand why this would be a movie, because like it's an interesting premise. It's a duck, you know, kids will love it, boobs. But it's also like, why is this the first? Why didn't you? Especially Superman is 78. In like 5 years you'll get Batman 89. Like it really feels like one of those, or 3 years. This is 86, you said. So like, yeah, like we're in the midst. So Burton's already working on that. Like it's just interesting that this is where they're like, all right, we're gonna make our stamp. This is theatrical, baby, because they really don't get that until I think Blade, really, and then even further down the line, like really get that with like the Raimi trilogy. But like until then, it really feels like, you know, they're not even close to what DC is doing.
Right. Well, I can say that it's the reason is if you kind of have to look at the time frame, because if you had E.T., Mac and Me, you have things like Willow, you have things like all that kind of stuff. The
Gremlins,
Flight of the Navigator, which doesn't really have the creature, but it does have like the space and a character, a kind of wild character in it. That's kind of where it's like these creature features for kids is kind of where it's at the time. And so I think that's probably why they was specifically Lucasfilm, because that's kind of this whole like creatures in a family friendly setting is kind of their thing for a little bit. So I think that's probably why this was the one.
Yeah, I wonder if they were
Blade. Was Blade the next one after?
I mean, in terms of hits, yeah, I think so. So like, I think
there was a Punisher. Dolph Lundgren was in a Punisher movie.
Yeah, I think that was like the next theatrical one. But like in terms of like big hits, like Blade wasn't, and even Blade was like a hit, but not like at the level of like Spider-Man and X-Men that would come later. And even X-Men, like a lot of people think those movies, there's only like one or two good ones amongst the crop of them. So like that first wave before like Logan, you know. So but by the time we get to Logan, you know, the MCU's in full gear. So it's just very interesting. I mean, like looking at the time, you have Superman and Batman, which are like two of the best, people say are two of the best superhero movies of all time, and then you have like, this is Marvel's big representative, and it is quite jarring. I'm just gonna look at like what the next theatrical one is, because I think after that we do get a few more like TV spots. Hold on, I've got the list up here, because we're eventually gonna have to cover these on the channel, even though we're taking a departure from this. So there's a Captain America movie from 1990. I don't know if that was straight to video or not, but it was the Matt Salinger one. And the Punisher you mentioned with Dolph Lundgren is 1989. So that would be like the next the next two big ones, aside from some TV stuff. Like the Hulk had like some TV movies, and then we really don't get anything till Men in Black and then Blade. Yeah, so Men in Black even is still like Marvel adjacent, where it's not like, you know, it's a Marvel owned comic company, but it's not specifically Marvel. And then yeah, we get Blade, and then it's X-Men and Spider-Man. So yeah, it really was a slow start for these theatrical, you know, whereas I think DC was the opposite, where it started strong and then kind of trailed off, then kind of researched, I guess, and still hasn't even fully researched. You know, they had bits and pieces. It seems like the Dark Knight trilogy was like the end of that. But yeah, very, very interesting. Yeah, and any other talking points? Kelsey, do you have any other notes that you wrote down that you want to talk about?
Yeah, so in the opening scene where Beverly first invites Howard to spend the night at her apartment, she goes through his wallet while he's sleeping, which, like, girl, I totally get. I would also go through a strange man's wallet. Strange Duck's wallet if he was spending the night at my place, where she finds a credit card that says like Mallards on it, Blooming Ducks. She pulls out his money and they're all the presidents, but they have bills on them, where I feel like they should have just been straight ducks. Like, why was it George Washington with a beak or a bill?
Why not?
You know what I mean?
Because it's a bill.
Dollar bill.
So they only have the bills. Yeah. I was waiting. I didn't think about that until you said it, and I was like, okay, there you go.
No.
Do you notice what else she pulls out of the wallet, Kelsey?
Oh,
did you
no, don't worry. It's written down. Oh, what does that say? The smallest condom I've ever seen.
and it's either unwrapped or used, right? It's
unwrapped. I don't think it doesn't.
Unwrapped,
yeah, it's
not used.
Yeah.
Unwrapped. Yeah.
Ugh.
Which, like,
Ugh.
yeah. Listen,
not
it's a horny
used.
movie. Hey, at least he's staying safe, you know, not giving anyone any duck STDs or
at
QTDs.
some point when he's DTDs. Oh, QT. What did you say?
Saying like quack transmitted. I don't know. Never mind. I was saying like a quacking joke. I don't know.
Wait. No, I got one. I got one.
Okay.
Instead of getting the clap, you
STDs,
get the quack.
STD duck.
Yeah.
There you go. Boom. There you go. That's why that's why I do a podcast.
Want to give someone the quack, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, there you go. Yeah.
At one point,
does he have any quack cocaine in his wallet? Sorry.
Okay, enough with the quack puns.
Sorry. I'll just never mind. I'll quack off.
Quack off. Wait, did we say that at the same time?
Yeah, they said it couldn't be done.
Like something. That sounds like something else, though. Never mind. Like I knew the intent was like fuck off, but it also sounds like something else off.
Masturbation.
Yes.
Anyway, okay, got it. Thank you for clarifying that,
if you will. Yeah. How many duck puns can we make? I don't know. Sorry, continue, Kels, because I only have 12 more minutes.
At one point, I just wrote down, if I see a duck dick at any point, I'm gonna lose it. Luckily, we did not.
Fun fact: ducks have corkscrew-shaped penises.
Like a pig's tail?
I was gonna.
I don't know the exact.
How you knew that, but I'm not gonna unpack that.
I'll tell you exactly, because some politician was talking foolishness about whatever, and then Garfunkel and Oates wrote a song about having sex with a duck and how their penises are corkscrew shaped. It was
This is why you all get an hour and 13 minutes into this thing, to hear information like that, because that is information you'll never get back, and you can use in your fun facts for the rest of your life.
And then my last note is just thank God this is over. So the rating that I gave this a 1 out of 5 on Letterboxd.
Wow.
Mostly for the performances and for the first 30 minutes of the film. So I guess that would be like a 2 out of 10.
Yeah, I think I'm a little more generous. I'd probably go 3 or 4 out of 10. Like I think it's a mess. I think it's boring at the end, but like I do find it charming at times. Like I don't think this is the worst Marvel movie ever made. It's certainly better than some MCU films. So I don't know. I would say probably like I'll stick it at like a 4 out of 10. I'm happy with that.
Okay.
Matt, I know we didn't ask you to prep a score, but
no, but I mean I scored it on Letterboxd. I gave it a 3 out of 5, so I guess a 6 out of 10, which does seem high. But my review is my review is exactly that. We can blame it on nostalgia, but I still had a great time with this movie. Not bad for a duck from outer space.
There you go.
Which is the last line of this movie, by the way.
There you go. Kels, I know you did prep some Letterboxd reviews. You had some exciting Letterboxd reviews to share. I was gonna go through and find some of my own, but I'm like, I bet these are the ones that she has. So Letterboxd reviews are always fun, especially those little one-liners. Kels, what were some of your favorites?
So this one says Howard the Duck, more like Howard the Suck, in parentheses, derogatory. And then underneath it says Howard the Duck, more like Howard the Suck, in parentheses, horny. So two different meanings there. Double entendre.
That's good.
This one just says I need to take a shower immediately.
Is that Carson's review?
I saw that one.
Yeah. Is that like a well-known person?
He's a YouTuber, Letterboxder person. I don't know him, but Carson, if you're listening, we'd love to have you on. But yeah.
This one says, I will be thinking about that she-duck with rather ample bosoms, dare I say, every single day for the rest of my life.
Dare I say? That's funny.
And this last one says, and Martin Scorsese has the nerve to say that Marvel movies aren't cinema.
There you go.
Right.
I
do have one here.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
And it's a 1-star review, and it says, I mean, he wasn't the best actor, but for a duck, he did pretty damn good, by Kelsey Kilpatrick.
That's Kelsey.
That's my review. Thank you. Yeah. I thought that it was funny and original.
It was very.
That is funny and original. I actually do have 3 reviews I thought Kelsey was going to bring up, so I'm glad I get to champion them. One is a 1-star review that says, 1 minute you're looking at duck tits, the next minute you're in Cleveland, and who's to say which is worse? That's good.
That's really funny.
Another one says, Howard the Duck is not the best film ever made, but it might just be the best film ever made. Unpack that, if you will. And the last one is a 5-star review from Cleo Red Lightning that says, do you think he'll return in Secret Wars? I don't know.
Wait, that's so funny.
So, hey, what are the odds? Because we know we're probably getting those Spider-Man back, where we might be getting some familiar faces from the past. We've seen with Deadpool and Wolverine, anything's possible from the Fox universe. Like, what are the odds we see this iteration of Howard the Duck? I assume we might see the Guardians version, but what are the odds we see this version in Secret Wars? Any thoughts and any predictions? If people ever see this version again?
Is Chip Zien still alive? If he is, then if it can only happen if he does the voice. If otherwise, why not? Why?
According to Letterboxd, he is still alive. So
okay, and as long as he hasn't done anything terrible, I would love to see this version back with him as the voice.
Yeah, even then, like, just bring the puppet in, like, somehow, like almost like kind of how like the Deadpool, like you have like the Ant-Man carcass. It's like bring in like him as as a prop, like Miss Kwan in Cat in the Hat type deal. Like use him as a weapon. I would love to see it, a web pin, if you will, because webbed feet. Kelsey,
I have
you gotta leave these puns to Kelsey.
Do you want to see him in Secret Wars? Would you like to see this version?
This version, no. I would rather just stick with the cooler Seth Green version that we know well from the MCU. If he appears in Secret Wars, I'll be happy. If I see this puppet ass motherfucker, I just got really angry for no
reason. You have beef to settle.
I'm beefing with this version of Howard the Duck. If he gets a little cooler, maybe gets a little like private detectives fedora and starts like smoking a cigar or something, maybe we could hang out.
All right. Last question. Who would win in a fight, Howard the Duck or Detective Pikachu?
I mean, Detective Pikachu has electricity.
True.
But does Detective Pikachu know Quack Fu, Matt?
No, but the thing about Quack Fu is it does require contact. Contact with electricity is deadly. So,
but could Detective Pikachu pull Leah Thompson?
Probably no. Never.
No. Pika. She wants to peek at something else, not his. All right. So we have now reviewed Howard the Duck. We've officially made it to the theatrical portion of our First Avenger Files. First Avenger Files is going to take a bit of a back burner because we got Agatha, which we got to finish. Then we'll be doing some trivia at the end of the year, and then we have something else coming soon, right? Captain America's coming in the beginning of the next year, but
February.
Thunderbolts as well is coming soon, I think. So we're just going to be trying to focus on new stuff. But we also have to watch Daredevil because that series is coming next year. So we're doing a lot of prep for like next year. And then we'll have to do just some other fun stuff. We have some more hot takes we need to do with Hot Wings eventually, which will be a lot of fun.
Dill, I'm so glad you're bringing all this up because I've been like brainstorming like ideas for us to do in the future. And so I was like going through all of our old videos, like trying to figure out like what top 10 lists we have and haven't done kind of thing. And I came across our most watched video. And do you know which one it is? You do run the channel, so you might.
I feel
you'll
bad
never
that I
guess.
Is it like one of our reviews or is it like a side video? Like a random?
No, it's a First Avengers file.
Oh, is it the Incredible Hulk?
Yeah.
Wow, a lot of people love that show.
I think it's the bear episode. It has a whopping 694 views.
See, that's the video review I teased on TikTok too. So they might have seen the TikTok and come here. Honestly, yeah, a lot of people love that Incredible Hulk series. Maybe if we have time, we could actually like watch the series through because we've only been watching the movies from that series, like the TV movies that were aired as the packages of episodes. But maybe we'll have to go back and fill in the blanks. Matt, have you seen the original Incredible Hulk series? You're muted, but I'll take that as a yes.
I used to watch it when I was a kid. I mean, I haven't watched like every episode or whatever.
Right.
Do you guys know why they call him David Banner instead of Bruce Banner?
I feel like we did, but I might have forgotten.
The producers thought that Bruce sounded too gay, so they named him David.
Wow. Was the shark from Jaws gay? Like, I don't know.
Right.
That's the only Bruce I can think of at the time. That okay. Well,
the name's Bruce. Is the shark
Bruce
from Finding Nemo gay? I think so.
Is the shark from Finding Nemo based on the shark from Jaws? He must be.
Yeah,
right?
the name is an homage to the shark from Jaws. Yeah.
I was today years old. Anyway, Matt, this was such a pleasure talking about movies with you, specifically this movie. I know like it has a little bit tinge of that Framewreckness, even though we decided it's not a Framewreck film. It does at least have this kind of bad discourse around it. So I'm glad we got to talk about it, kind of redeem some things, but also condemn others. And I'm very glad you were along for the ride. Did you enjoy yourself, Matt?
I had such a great time. I'm glad I got to revisit this movie. I'm glad that I got to talk about it with you guys. I'm glad Kelsey came on Framewreck and we got to talk about Madam Web because that was so much fun.
Yeah,
everything about this has been amazing.
Yeah, we love having you on, just giving your expertise and getting to talk about a trailer with you and to talk about the substance a little bit. Even though I want to get even deeper into that convo if we had time, but I do think like it is such a pleasure having you on and just hearing you talk about other things aside from bad movies. Even though this is also a bad movie, but just getting to just like chit chat here has been great and in a more loose form too. Like we didn't have to worry about superlatives. We could just like talk about the movie and there's beauty in both things. But yeah, Madam Web was great. Check out that episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Matt, where can they find you out there?
You can find me basically everywhere on the internet at MattmanXIII. That's 13 in Roman numerals. And you can find me on this channel on Framewreck. You can find me on Draft Day a lot of the times. Until I can be on Recipe for Reality, you can find me on most shows on this. But there's still that elusive one.
And why don't we tease what's going on for you next month, Matt? You're hitting a milestone and something's coming out on your birthday. You want to tease that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dylan was kind enough for my 40th birthday. Yes, kids. 40th. For my 40th birthday to do a draft day where I got to bring on some of my friends from the channel and from real life and do a 40 pick. It's eight people, 5 rounds. So 40 picks all together. For my birthday, for draft day, I got to pick the categories, and it was a lot of fun. I'm not drafting; I'm just overseeing it. But yeah,
very exciting. Kelsey and I.
That comes out on October 4th. Correct.
October
It's
4th.
my birthday.
There we go. Yeah. And you can stick around on this channel. There's a lot of other stuff coming from me for the New York Film Fest, which I'm covering. I did do a review on The Substance before I left for New York Film Fest, so check that one out. But the rest of the next 2 or 3 weeks is just going to be Matt's draft day and a bunch of my reviews for New York Film Fest, and then a few reviews for Kelsey, because next week we will be talking about Agatha All Along episodes 3 and 4. We will finally talk about him. Mr. Mephisto, we'll finally talk about him. But yeah, we are very excited to be talking about those throughout the rest of the month. Kelsey, where can they find you aside from here?
You can find me on Instagram at Kelsey A. Kilpatrick. You can follow my TikTok at Kelsey A. Kilp. And my letterbox is the exact same thing as my TikTok at Kelsey A. Kilp.
Beautiful. Kelsey, any last words from Matt? Any parting words to our guest?
I love you, Matt.
I love you too.
Yes. And just so if you only watch our show, which like we're honored if this is the one you chose, but if you only watch Marvel-ous Movie Mondays, you will know that Matt and Kelsey have started a coup against me on the Marvel Trivia League. But this is, if you see the orange background, we're not in trivia mode. This is Matt, Kelsey, and Dill. This is not Matt Fisto, Kelsey, and Dill. So we're all good friends here. So anyone saying they feel bad for me, please don't. Anyone saying, yeah, F you, Dill, Matt and Kelsey rock Dill, and you suck, that's warranted, but like also understand we are all still good friends. This is my sister. This is one of my best friends. Like we are all good. But that's all merely for fun. Yeah, we're glad people are enjoying that storyline. So it's nice to kind of talk about Marvel separate from the guise of that. But yeah, we are very excited to talk about Howard the Duck, and we'll be excited to talk about Agatha next week. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Kelsey. And Kelsey and I's 31 days or 31 Fridays of Halloween starts on Tuesday, I believe, right? October 1st. So check it out. Kelsey on TikTok will be revealing what her first film is by a random number generator the day of, so you do not know what her first movie is. You know what her list is. I was going to update a graphic and I completely forgot, so check out the graphic. I'll put it on the Facebook page. For me, I'm starting it off with the original Fright Night. I watched the remake for a bracket that Matt and I did on Chad's channel, and I really liked it, so I'm excited to go back for the original. So yeah, that's how I'll be kicking off my 31 days on top of like watching 40 movies at the New York Film Fest. So I don't know how I'll sleep, but who needs sleep when you have good friends? Thanks for watching, everyone. Good night.